Welcome to Build. We're happy to have you back.
Thanks for having me back.
So
this is a new studio.
Yeah, you were here at the old studio.
Yeah.
We got some new digs.
Oh,
Everybody
is
enjoying the
great.
Build studio as always? Yeah, right? On this Thursday.
This is awesome.
And I'm very much enjoying your second book because you were here to talk about your first book, It's Not Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about the world when that happened after that book hit the New York Times bestseller, and how did you feel, and how did you decide to start with a second book?
Yeah, crazy. I did not expect for it to even sell out in any bookstore, let alone be a New York Times bestseller. I actually remember with It's Not Okay, I was riding in the car with my family on a Thursday to go to a book signing, and my agent had called and was like, by the way, it's made the New York Times list. And we were all like, what? We're like, are you sure you called the right client? And do you have the right book? Did you guys want to retally? So it was pretty surreal. And I think that gave me a lot of motivation, not just making the New York Times list, just the fact that people were responding and actually buying the book gave me a lot of motivation to continue writing. You put a first book out there, like anything, like any job, like any project, and you're like, I don't know, are people going to think this is dumb? Are they going to respond to it well? So I really think that the support I had from the first book really motivated me to write the second one and gave me the confidence to write the second one.
Yeah, and it's not easy to sit down and write a 300-page book.
No.
So how did you decide to go do it again? Because I'm sure, as you talk about in this book, it was not the easiest experience for you to sit down and write the first one, considering everything that had happened that you were writing about.
Yeah, I feel like as an author, I got kind of lucky because my writing is all from my journals, and I happen to deal with my problems or issues or even minor little things of the day by writing. So basically I was just purging into a notebook with a pen or pencil onto page, because that was my way of coping, and that was my therapy. When I purge stuff on, I just feel like it's a release. And so I was able to just translate that into the book. So it's kind of it was a dual purpose. I was writing a book, but I was also really purging emotions, and it was like writing back in the high school days a Dear Diary.
And so the first book talked a lot about your Bachelorette experience and your experience on The Bachelor and your broken engagement. But what is it about this book that seems, when I read it, it seems you're more at ease, a lot was going on. So talk about the creation of this book and what you wanted to address.
Yeah, well, the first book obviously was all about heartbreak, but that's what was happening at the time. I was going through a breakup that was really bad, and an unhealthy relationship that I shouldn't have been in, but I was heartbroken, and you could see that in the first book. I wrote all about that, and this obviously has a much lighter tone, and I just think it's reflective of where I was when I was writing the book, which was in New York City. And I think you see a shift too in this book. In the beginning, it starts with still kind of this hint of heartbreak, and it's not until I really start to get out there, and especially in the dating world, and start to really live life, that you see kind of this transition from heartbreak to independence.
So what made you make the decision to move to New York City? Because you're an Atlanta girl, but you spent some time in LA, of course, with The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. But why New York? What drew you here?
I had always had a love for New York City. I never thought I'd live here. I was living in Atlanta, and I found myself staying at a friend's house with no real job at the time, no boyfriend, obviously. I had been living with my then fiance, so I had no home, and I just had nothing. I felt so empty except for the support of my friends and family. And I kind of just said, you know what? I've always kind of wanted to move to New York City, and if there's any place that I can go get lost in, then it's there. And I bought a one-way ticket. I packed a couple suitcases, and I've been here for 3 years now. Yeah.
So fast.
I know. And a lot of times people will say oh, what kind of advice do you give? Or how did you make that move? That's so brave. And I said, it's not really that brave. It's just when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. And I think a lot of times people kind of miss out on that opportunity. I didn't know that it was such an opportunity at the time. I say this obviously in hindsight and reflecting back, but when you're at one of your lowest points, sometimes that can just be an opportunity to go out on a limb and say, hey, I can't get much lower, so I might as well go do something. And for me, that was New York City.
Now, do you feel like it's your home now?
Yeah.
Can you imagine ever leaving?
Not really. I definitely feel like it's home. It's funny, I will go home for the holidays to see my parents, and they're like, welcome home. And I'm like, this is not home, Mom. I'm like, sorry. She's like, well, you still have a room here. I'm like, it's a guest room. I was like, no, my home is New York. So yeah, 3 years, I think I'm a New Yorker.
And Let's talk about finding your home in New York because
Oh my
a lot of the
gosh.
book talks about the apartment search. With all of us New Yorkers know it's not
Yeah.
easy to find a place
Yeah.
in New York that's affordable and big enough to house your full size bed, let alone your closet or whatever. So talk about that experience. What was that like for you to
Well,
find an
first of all, talk
apartment?
about reality check. Like when you get to New York City, I mean, I come from the South where like land is cheap and you get nice bedrooms and master bathrooms and lawns, backyards, pools, anything. You come here and it's like, oh my gosh. So I went through what every New Yorker that I've ever talked to that has moved here has gone through, which is the disastrous apartment hunting. I saw things that I wish my eyes had never seen before. And yeah, it was like, welcome to New York. Huge slap in the face with reality when it came time to hunting for apartments and then seeing what the cost was. I was like, oh my, like, I'm sorry, do I get to own this building once I pay this rent? And then there was this broker's fee and the deposits, and I'm like, what is happening here? And I won't give too much away because a lot of it's in the book, and I think there's some really like funny stories in the book that are super relatable. But yeah, I had a brutal time finding an apartment.
It was great when you're like, no laundry, no dryer. Like, what's going
Yeah,
on here?
here
No
I was like the
dishwasher?
Southern girl. I was like, so where's the dishwasher? They're like, excuse me? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you should be living in Tribeca if you want a dishwasher. I'm like, wait, I can't live Tribeca. That's where Taylor Swift lives. Like, I can't afford that.
We all wish we could live with
know,
Taylor
right?
Swift, don't we?
Oh my
But you ended up in the West Village.
Yeah.
And how was that transition from home, Atlanta, to the West Village, and how did you kind of find your way and find your community there?
It's been good. You know, I kind of think back, like, it's been 3 years now. So, of course, now I'm like, oh, it's great. I know my postman. I know, the bodega. It's a huge adjustment, though, of course. You know, coming from, I think, any city and moving to New York is a huge adjustment. And I write a lot about this in the book, like even little things like the noises. You know, you open a window because the radiator is so hot, and it's like you can hear everything. And, you're sharing such a small space with so many people, and everyone's living on top of each other. But you also start to kind of love those little noises and love those nuances that are like, all right, the radiator's hissing or someone's yelling at me and honking their horn. And I think it's oddly what makes New York, New York in such like a treasurable way.
So did you find that the dating life in New York makes New York, because it's not as easy as many people. You assume you come to New York, there's going to be guys and girls everywhere, single, everybody's hanging out, wanting to meet.
No.
It's not that way.
I would say the noises and the vibe makes New York, the guys break New York. Yeah, the dating scene here is completely, sorry guys in the back, but it's true. The dating scene here, woof. If I had one word, it would just be like woof. I don't know what it is. It's like, it's impossible. I don't know if maybe we should ask the guys in the back. I don't know if it's the distractions. I don't know if I don't know.
Maybe that's why single state of mind is very much a New York thing, because it's very hard.
Right.
You talk a lot about, in the book, going on dates, meeting men, either celebrity Tinder you dabbled in.
Yeah.
Talk about all that and what it was like for you to kind of realize, oh, New York isn't all it's cracked up to be in the dating world.
Yeah, well, you have to also realize it's like I went from dating, normal life growing up, of course, and then I went to The Bachelor where I was dating one guy along with 25 other women, and then I went to dating 25 guys, and then all of a sudden I'm in New York and I'm like, wow, there's millions of girls here, and millions of guys. So it was pretty humbling to kind of get back into the dating world and just different. I didn't want the grandiose dates that I had been on. I didn't want the castles and stuff like that. I did just want to be normal. But then you're like, dang, I kind of wish I had 25 guys in one room all paying attention. So it's been an adjustment with the dating world for sure, especially when you come from TV. And I think also just getting older and wiser and having been through an engagement and mostly having had my heart broken, overcoming that has made me look at dating differently.
And so did anybody you went on a date with recognize you as the Bachelorette? I feel like anyone who watches the show would automatically be like, oh, there's Andi Dorfman. Like, I'm going on a date with the Bachelorette.
It's funny. It's like a fine line. I feel like sometimes guys will know, but they won't say anything. Some will just outright say it, and there's obviously no second date after that. But I will say most men that are single don't really watch the show. most men that watch the show, like their girlfriends or wives are making them watch it. So I haven't run into it too much.
You met many girls and not as many guys.
Yeah. Girls are always like coming up on the street and stuff. They're like, oh, I make my husband watch it and stuff like that. So I think for the majority, like the single guys in New York City aren't watching The Bachelor, Bachelorette.
So I mentioned Celebrity Tinder,
Yeah.
which you ended up joining thanks to your pal and the host of the Bachelor franchise, Chris Harrison.
Yeah.
You can always count on Chris.
He's forever indebted to me because of that.
So what was the experience? Like, tell us about Celebrity Tinder, because clearly none of us are on it.
Oh
so.
my gosh. Well, first of all, you don't really want to know. It's not that great. It's basically like any other dating app. I'm like always playing on my friends' dating apps. Well, there's so many out there nowadays, I feel like. So it's the same thing. I think they just apparently like selective. I don't even know if it's around anymore, to be honest. But it was just like selective. Like you every once in a while run across like a celebrity. But I feel like you can do that on the dating apps everywhere now, right?
They're everywhere. Celebrities are everywhere.
Celebrities are everywhere and dating apps are everywhere. So
But you did meet someone in the book that you call Mr. Seattle.
I met a few guys on there.
Yeah, you did meet a few, but Mr.
Yeah.
Seattle really stuck out to me. When you guys read this book, you'll figure it out.
Did you love or hate him?
I ended up really liking him, but then when I found out what happened, I of course didn't like him. I sided with you. I was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
This is kind
But
of a
you
game.
didn't like hate
No.
him.
Whereas some of the other guys, I was like, I
You hate,
felt very
yeah.
bad for you. Those weren't such great guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I met a lot of guys on the dating app and like through Twitter even. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I will let someone slide into the DMs. Like, it's 2018, whatever. And they all turned out pretty disastrous, hence why I have single state of mind.
So I was trying to figure out like who Mr. Seattle was, and then you dated a Yankee too, and I was like, who are these guys?
I'll never
Did they
tell.
know you were writing this book and that you were mentioning them? Did you contact everyone who's
They
in the book?
didn't. They didn't know, which is why.
Their names aren't in it though, guys.
Their names
so-
are not in it, and I will confess, there's like some like job details. There's no one's gonna find out who they are, because here's the thing, and that's the difference with this book, and It's Not Okay. It's Not Okay was about guys that signed up on a reality television show and then went on a dozen other reality television shows after our season. So I kind of felt like, if you put yourself in the game, then you are fair game. These guys, obviously, like I was dating off camera, out of the public. And so, yeah, I used a lot of hidden little characteristics and stuff like that. So they won't even know. I did have one guy, though, reach out to me when I had like originally posted or it had been announced that the book was coming out. And he texted me and he was like, do I get to be in it? And I'm like, this is why I'm single state of mind. Because like I date guys that like are wanting to be in a book.
Please put me in your book.
Right? I'm like, okay. But no, I did. I wanted to like respect that kind of privacy angle. And also I wanted to be able to get a date in the future. Like I don't want to be known as the girl who guys are like, oh God, if you go on a date, she's going to write about it. Yeah. So yeah, you could probably search all day long, but I don't think you'll find their identities. I know, sorry.
So frustrating.
I know.
Because the last one, at least, you could like read along and then go back to what was happening and then reflect through it through the book.
They were fair game in the last one, though. I mean, they were doing season after season of reality TV. And yeah, these guys. But I also think it's kind of fun because you get to make up in your own mind the character of this, Mr. Seattle or the Yankee. Like, sometimes like you read a book and then the movie comes out and I feel like you're like, darn, I wasn't really picturing that character to be like that. So I think there's just enough detail to kind of love or hate or be indifferent to these guys, but also be able to kind of in your own mind imagine who and what they look like.
A movie. You mentioned a movie. I was like, ooh, this would be a fun movie, a nice romantic comedy.
We're looking into it.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, TV, movie. I don't think it's the last we'll see of Single State of Mind.
Oh, cool.
I know.
And of course, we're talking a lot about the men, but you talk a lot about your female friends in this book and the women who have been around you and supporting you. What was it like? Did you at least tell them, I'm going to put you in the book? And did you use their real names?
So I let my friends all choose their names, by the way. So all my friends in the book, Ava, Jess, Sarah, except Kelly. Sorry, Kelly, I forgot to let you choose your name.
Free game.
But I let my friends all choose their own names, and I sent them everything, and they loved it. They were like, it's funny and great, and that adds to it. It's like I wanted this book to be as real as possible while also like being a little protective. You know, you don't want to like hang your friends out to dry, and you don't want to hang these guys out to dry. That wasn't the tone of the book. The tone is much more lighthearted, and there is this like overall theme of girl power in it. So yeah, my friends got to read it. They got to laugh. I even was like, if you want to make edits, let me know.
Yeah, because it really is about girl power, and it's about being okay with being single.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself being okay with your relationship status, and are you dating anyone now, or are you kind of still on your own?
Good. It depends what day of the week it is. No, it's true. This book really, you know, the dating stuff is very humorous and entertaining, but there is a lot of underlying themes of independence, and that was something I had never experienced before. You know, I grew up always thinking like, I'm an attorney, I'm a very independent woman, and even when I went on both shows, I was like, I still felt independent. I didn't really know the essence of independence until I moved to New York, until I was on my own, until, you know, I didn't have a roommate. I didn't have anyone to fall back on paying my bills. I had to get my own jobs. You know, like I was really having to be self-reliant. And I think there's a lot of that in the book. There's struggles with it, but there's also like a sense of pride. So that was a big deal for me. And that's something that I'm proud for. You know, I'm hard on myself. I talk about this in the book, especially in writing It's Not Okay. I'm very critical. But a lot of times I think when you're single and you're a woman, especially, and you're independent, you're like, oh, I feel bad about myself for it. And I've started to kind of learn to be proud of it.
And is it unbelievable to you that it's already been almost 4 years since you were on your season and you got engaged? And does it feel like that's a different world to you?
It does. I mean, yeah, I definitely like pinch myself. Like even when we like people ask for a photo and stuff, I'm like, what? Like I'll still like look over my shoulder and like wonder who they're talking to and asking because I really did. I grew up so normal and I went on a reality TV show. You know, I pinch myself all the time in that sense. But it's great. Like I love that I get to do these things. It's been a wild ride, and yeah, I'm always like looking over my shoulder, being like, who am I?
Yeah. And of course, in the book, you do mention number 25, who I'm assuming is Nick Vile. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, he became the Bachelor. It wasn't Ben Higgins.
Do you run into Nick like in the city? Because I know he's back and forth from LA and New York.
I run into a few of them. Like
or-
we had a wedding that one of our friends got married. We attended a wedding back like in October or September, and there were a few of the guys there. No, it's like it seems like it would be awkward again. You got to realize this is 3 years ago, like, and they were exes. Like I dated 25 guys at the same time. So it's funny. It's like all water under the bridge, and like you're always weirdly bonded together. Like you're never gonna get away from it all. Nor do I really want to, because at the end of the day, like. I did travel the world. I did meet friends. But I won't lie. When you like me and two of my exes show up, all three of us single at a wedding, and we're like sitting next to each other weirdly, and we're like, we take a look around, and we're like, this is awkward. This is weird.
Did you guys talk? Because poor Nick too went on his season, got engaged. It didn't work out. Did you guys kind of talk about, you know, how it is when you're on the show and the difference when you leave the show and how things change with couples and things can go wrong?
Yeah, it's funny. That's kind of where we draw the line, is like talking about our failed relationships. I remember when I went on Nick's season to do the surprise, he was like, you know, sorry, like, we kind of talked a little bit. We're not gonna like dive into each other's ex-fiancés and like what went wrong. I think that's where like the line gets drawn. As awkward as it is to have to sit at a wedding next to them, I think that takes it to another level.
No, did you watch Bachelor in Paradise when Josh and Nick were on?
No,
Because
Kelly and I
was
actually
awkward.
were in Greece.
That was
like,
awkward as hell.
Yeah, I was like getting like text updates and like tweets, and I'm like, I guess stuff's going on. I have no idea, but you know, I was just kind of like, why watch it?
Are you, you know, proud of yourself for not necessarily buying into the franchise and going on Paradise and going on whatever Winter Olympic Games and kind of doing your own thing and writing books and making your own career from the platform you had, but kind of using it in a different way than some other people use it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, I don't know if proud is the word. I'm a very big believer in like to each their own. Like it bothers me when people kind of rip on the reality TV stars for going on social media or like doing ads and whatever. And it's like, you know what, if someone was going to pay your rent for a month for you to post on social media, every single person in this room would,
like,
you know,
yes.
yeah. So I wouldn't say like I'm proud that I'm not doing the summer and the winter shows. I would say, I guess I'm just proud that I've gotten to write 2 books and that I've done them on my own. But yeah, I'm a big believer in like to each their own, and you know, not everyone gets the opportunity. Like I am very honest in the fact that I'm way beyond lucky to get to write not one but two books, and I know that I would not have gotten to do that had it not been A, for the show, and B, for the people afterwards like still being supportive.
Well, I am the biggest Bachelor franchise fan, so I'm all about it. I follow everyone on Instagram, and
Do
I buy
you?
all the products you guys
I feel like following the Bachelor and Bachelorette people on Instagram is like almost as good as watching the show nowadays.
Well, because you kind of like, you fall for these people yourself when you're watching them,
Yeah.
and you see
It's a great
who you like. It
show.
really is.
I mean,
How
the
can
more
you
I
deny
talk
it?
about it, like the more I talk about it, I like smile because I'm like, if you think about it, this show has been on for 15 years. And like we're still talking about it, and we're still following people on social media, and like as crazy and sometimes dumb as we think things are, dramatic, like it's a great show.
It's great. I mean, even look at Ari, who came back 5 years later,
and we're all
is now
still
the
glued to
Bachelor.
it.
And people were like, "Oh, I wanted Peter to be the Bachelor," and we're also watching Ari, so we're all liars.
But we're also still arguing and like lobbying for Peter. Like the fact that we're even like championing one Bachelor over the next. I mean, it's all just, it's crazy, but you got to kind of sit back and laugh and be like, all right, someone did a great job.
Now, would you ever go back on the show, or what if Chris Harrison and the production team called you and said, "We want you to be the Bachelor in New York City, and you'll do this whole new thing"? And
Well, I'd be like, no, let's travel. Like, why stay in New York City? Isn't that half the fun? No, I don't think I would. And here's the thing. I say that in a way that's not in any way regretful. I think even though my season didn't work out, I loved it. I loved the experience. Like I traveled the world. I met great people that I'm still friends with. You know, I've been in my friends from the show's weddings. They're having babies now, and I get to be there for that. So I have a lot of positive takes from that show, and I feel very grateful for having done it. And I think going on one more time is like, you know, like Wheel of Fortune, when they spin the wheel that one time, and then they get the bankrupt, and you're like, why don't you just solve the puzzle? I'm like, all right, puzzle's solved. Like, I'm good. I'm gonna walk away on top.
exactly. Are you watching Ari's season, and are you enjoying it? And do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I started watching it. It's funny. I took a little break just because I knew so many people on it, whether it was an ex or an ex of an ex, and I feel like this season is the first one where like I don't know anyone. It's all fresh faces, and I don't know. I feel removed enough to finally get to watch it as a viewer, which is cool. But yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy season. I have just decided to play to the odds and go with a Lauren for any question. Because if y'all haven't watched, there's 4 Laurens. And I'm pretty sure 3 of them are blonde, or all
of them
4?
are blonde. Almost.
That's definitely a cast.
And then there's 2 Beccas, the Beccas are kind of my favorites.
Yeah, and they're both brunettes. So I like the Beccas, and then I'm like, whatever, when in doubt, go for Lauren.
We'll see. Hopefully we'll have Ari here to talk about all this
Oh
too.
yeah, you should get him on here.
It'll be fun. So I do want to open it up to some audience questions if you're into it.
Yeah, of
Who's
course.
first?
Hi. I'm sure you've experienced, since moving to New York City, the overwhelming amount of these options we get for single people. And you have the dating apps, so there's a huge illusion of people you could be compatible with. Do you think in the real world that actually creates noise versus having a real chance with someone and build a relationship where you're too flustered and overwhelmed with like who to date? Or do you think it's actually good to have this amount of options?
Good question. I actually kind of like the amount of options, and I think I liken it to a long distance relationship. People always ask me like, oh, do you believe in long distance relationships? I think when you have to actually communicate with somebody, and if it's a dating app, you're actually having to like talk to them, usually before you meet up with them, you get a sense of who that person is, and you actually get to see what their communication skills are. You're actually talking before just like meeting them at a bar one random night. I do think though, I agree with you in the fact that the fact that you can swipe so fast, yes, no, you're kind of always like looking around and wondering what's on the other side. But I do think if you find the right person, you're like, whatever, I don't need it anymore. I found the right person. So I don't know. If you have a bigger sea, maybe, you know, you get the better fish.
It's true.
Says the single girl.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering if you find it hard to be vulnerable being such a public figure?
Good question. I think I'd be lying if I said no. I think I am a little more guarded, probably a little less trustworthy with certain things, especially when it comes to men. But yeah, I think that's also part of my personality. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily because I'm such like a public figure in any way, because I don't really see myself that way. But yeah, I think I'm a little more guarded naturally.
You talk about that a lot in the book, how you're like, you can't believe that you're invited to red carpets or you're going to these events. Like, you got to go to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
I'm the first person who's like, why does anyone want a photo? And then I'm like, wait, don't ask Andi, because then they're going to stop inviting me to parties. Yeah. Like, I'm totally like the person you always see where you're like, why is she here? Like, I'm asking myself the same thing at every event that I'm at.
Oh my God. And when you guys read this book, you're just going to want to grab like 5 bottles of wine and head over to Andi's house.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah. I'm a big wine drinker. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
No shame in my wine game.
Oh, no, don't have any shame.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just recently single, and I was just getting so used to this. Woohoo! And I was so used to a routine for like such a really long time. Like, how did you know when you wanted to start dating again?
Okay, I would say I knew I wanted to start dating again. You kind of can see in the book, I got pushed into it, but I think when I really wanted to start dating was when I met like the right guy to start dating. I don't think there was any like time on it. I think it was just kind of like, all right, yeah, I actually do want to go on a date with this person. And not because I wanted to like break the seal and go on that first date, but because I just wanted to go on the date with the person.
Thanks. Well, there's so much advice in this. Real life stories, but it really does help a single woman figure out her way, not only through New York, but I'm sure anywhere you live,
Yeah, it
because
could be
every
any
city.
city.
Exactly. We so appreciate you being here, and good luck with the book, guys. It's out now, so pick
you.
up a copy and read it over the weekend or this week. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a quick, easy, fun read, I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andi.
Thanks for having
We're looking
me.
forward to more books and shows and movies.
Yay. Thank y'all. Thank you.